Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start our Thursday's class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamya. Om Sahnavavtu Sahnabhunaktu Saviryam Karvavai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So these days we are doing Mundak Upanishad and chapter 2, section 2. And we ended our class with verse number 2 last time. And in these verses, Rishi is explaining the Atma, the Paramatma, the Absolute. He says it's luminous, subtler than even the subtlest. That imperishable Brahma is the abode of the world and all its inhabitants. He is life, speech, mind, reality, immortality. That is the mark which should be penetrated by the mind. So that means when we meditate, because meditation is control of the mind, we got to pierce our mind into this kind of a subtlety. He says, penetrate it, oh my friend. So this is where we ended our class. So in the next two verses, verse number 3 and 4, there are two different ways he's explaining this entire sadhana. He's using the example of a bow. So he says, Dhanu grihitvaha opnishidam mahastram sharam hi upasinishtam sandhit ame tad bhav gaten chet saha lakshyam tat eva aksharam saumya vidhi. Dhanu means bow. Grihitva, having taken. Upanishadam, furnished by the Upanishad. Mahastram, the great weapon. Sharam, arrow. He means indeed upasanashitam, sharpened by the upasana, the japa. Sandhayit, meditate. Ame, having drawn. Tad bhav gaten, fixed on the Brahma. Chetsa is mind. Lakshyam, the goal or the mark. Tat is that, ev means alone, aksharam, immortal, samya, oh friend, vidhi, learn. Having taken the bow, furnished by the Upanishads, the great weapon, fixed in it the arrow, pointed by constant meditation, and having drawn it with the mind, fixed on the Brahm, oh good-looking youth, at the mark, the immortal Brahm. Okay, so he's saying that make your mind one-pointed, fully concentrated. Do not deviate anywhere. Just make sure that it goes towards the reality, the absolute, which we call Brahma. No deviation, no fluctuation, no wavering. Take your mind there and there alone. Pranvaha dhanu sharahi atma brahmatat lakshyam uchyate apramatet vedavyam sharvat tanmaya bhavet. Pranav is, that means Om. Dhanu, bow. Shara, arrow. He means indeed Atma, the soul. Brahm, tat means that. Lakshyam, goal. Uchyate is said to be. apramate, steady and undeflected. Vedavyam, should be experienced. Sharvat, like the arrow. See, shar means arrow, vat means like the arrow. Tanmaya, one with the mark, the goal. Bhaved, should become. Pranav is the bow. So now he is explaining it a little further, what he said in the previous verse. So he says, Pranav is the bow. The Atma is the arrow. And the Brahm is said to be its mark. It should be hit by one who is self-collected, and that which hits becomes like the arrow, one with the mark, and that is Brahma. So it's like when you hit it right with the one-pointedness, you become one with it. So these two mantras, the entire sadhana is explained actually. So the bow, remember, is the chanting of the Om. So it's like a simile he is giving. Bow is like a chanting. With the knowledge of the significance of Om, the arrow is the life center in the individual. That is the arrow. So the awareness in us, propelled by the force, you just feel that voiceless ecstasy when you are moving towards that mark to touch the total awareness, Brahma, the all reality. So this picture which is giving it to us, when we really contemplate upon it, arrow is fixed to the bow and pulled towards us. If you just remember how the bow and arrow works. So arrow is pulled towards you. Through the arrow is facing outward. The string of the bow bends to represent an arrowhead turned towards ourselves. Okay, so one side is towards us, the other side is pointed towards the target. So the Om chanting is to be done in the heart. That's what it really means. Do it internally, Om chanting. And its significance should be meditated. That Om is not just a sound. It is Brahm itself. We got to experience that. We got to experience this reality, the absoluteness in the innermost vaults of our own personality. Innermost. Sometimes we like to chant it loudly, sure, in the earlier parts of our sadhana. We got to learn how to chant, but slowly we just bring it more and more inward. That's what he's talking about. When the string is strung to the maximum, the bowman is only to relax. That's why in our meditation, sure, during our Hatha Yoga sadhana, we make an effort. But when we are meditating, we got to relax. But we got to make sure that our grip on the arrow is firm. So grip on that concentration, on that Om is firm. Only then the flight of the instrument pointing through space is automatic. So that means if we have done all this preparation properly, then we cannot miss the mark. It is almost spontaneous, instantaneous, how we merge with that absolute. Arrow should be sharp. The grip has to be firm. The flying arrow can penetrate its goal. Only then it will be embedded completely in the object which it strikes. So for our own sadhana, with the help of this simile, sure we feel the sense of separateness. We think we are different than God because we identify ourselves wrongly. We think we are the body. We lose the sense of individuality when we are completely detached from that source. So that's why, with the help of this Om sadhana, we just merge back. And in this mantra, when he says pramaten vedavyam, there is a wealth of detail about the sadhana over here. Because if the arrow trembles in the hands of the archer before it leaves the bow, sure, that arrow will miss the target. So what trembles inside us? We know that arrow, that bow can tremble if the hand is not steady. But how do we tremble? How does our mind tremble? With our desires, with our vasanas. So trembling of the mind before its flight is always the attachment with the sense objects, the desires, or attachment to the outer world. Or sometimes it could be because of our own vanities or our thoughtless, wrong identifications. Our mind wavers. We know we are supposed to connect with Him, that higher reality. But before we know, our mind is just thinking about something else. We decided that we're going to meditate for half an hour. But in those half an hour, how many minutes actually we penetrate? That is shakiness of the mind. So renouncing and rejecting them all through the process of discrimination. That's why Vivek is very important. Got to remember what is true, what is false. What am I supposed to do when I sit down on my meditation seat? We got to make our mind steady, single pointed. Such a prepared mind takes to meditation as a duck to water. So we'll just go there right away. That's why it's very important during our Hatha Yoga sadhana also. Keep an eye on the mind. If you're telling your mind to stay in the Agya Chakra, does it stay there? If you tell your mind to focus on your breath, does it really stay there? So that is a preparation we do. 1 hour of Hatha Yoga sadhana can be a beautiful meditation also. Or when we are doing our rituals, whether we are doing the arti or we are doing the fire ceremony, the havan, whatever we are doing, is our mind fully concentrated? Keep an eye on the mind. Okay. Verse number 5. Yasmin dhyo prithvi cha antriksham otam mana prane cha sarve tam ev ekam janat atmanam anya vachaha vimujant amritasya eshaha setu. Yasmin, in which, dhyav, the heaven, prithvi, earth, cha means and, antriksham, the interspace, antriksh, otam, centered, manaha, mind, saha means with, prana, the vital force, cha and, sarve, all. Tam, him, ev means alone, ekam, one, janat, no, atmanam, as the atma, anya, other, vachaha, the talk, the speech, vimunchat, desist, amritasya, to the immortality, esha, this, setu, bridge. He in whom the heaven, the earth, and the interspace are centered. And who's this he? The Brahm, the God. Together with the mind and all prans, know him alone as the one self of all, and desist from all other talk. So that means if somebody says differently, just do not get involved in that kind of a talk. This is the person's bridge to the shore of immortality, to cross the ocean of life. Bridge, setu. Over here, he is giving us a cause. Cause is the very substance of the effect. We know that. See, just like a mud is the very cause of all the mud parts. So in the same way, this mantra is saying that the entire world of things and beings, including the mind and the prana, and all the activities are in essence nothing but the supreme consciousness. There's nothing but Brahm, nothing but God. We often don't realize this. And not realizing this, we identify ourselves with the finite world of the objects. And our own ever-changing mind feels sorrowful, feels frustrated, or even imperfect, limited. So this Upanishad is giving us a sure method by which we can end all our sufferings, all our pains, or sense of limitations, by knowing the seat of our consciousness in ourselves. That's why he says, know him. Know. Know does not mean the ordinary meaning of knowing the object through the instrument of knowledge, because normally we know the objects through our mind, through our intellect, or through our senses. So over here, the object of knowledge is but the subject itself. So here the word know means a recognition, a rediscovery. This rediscovery is self-realization. And it's not possible as long as the seeker is preoccupied with the external world or the problems of the external world. So that's why this Rishi is advising every seeker to desist from all other talk. Student might say, I cannot live a life like that. But we can find some time every day where our mind is not chattering, it's not getting involved into the world. We should definitely do that as a sadhak, as a seeker. Because as long as a seeker is worried about the world or its problems, it's very natural that attention of that seeker will be extroverted. Okay, you just keep on thinking about the outer world. So this is what he is suggesting. So the mind and the intellect should be transcended. So, or you can say that ego is to be eliminated for a short interval of time. Try doing it and see the peacefulness you feel. And then maybe then you will like to just enlarge that, because we all want peace. We all want bliss. We all want to be happy, because that's our real nature. So once we get a taste of that, then we'll do it more and more. But first we have to take some time out, sit back, detach from this world. So ego being the awareness conditioned by our mind and intellect, we got to learn how to transcend it. To transcend the mind is same as to surrender the ego. So we cannot transcend the mind with that ego. Remember that. That's why before we meditate or when we do the prayers, we make sure the place where we established a certain divinity, some kind of an altar, we even bend our head down. Symbolically, we are surrendering. We are being thankful. These are the ways we can connect with him. Then he says, Ara iv ratnabhav sahata yatra nadyaha sa esha antrakshaktehe bahuda jaymanaha om iti evam dhyayat atmanam swasti vapraye tamasa parastat. Ara means spokes. Iv means as ratnabhav, in the hub of a chariot wheel. Those are like spokes in a wheel. Sahata, contacted. Yatra, where, nadya, nerves. Sa means he, esha, this, antrakshakte, moves in the heart. Bahuda, in many ways. Jaymanaha, becoming manifold. Om iti, as Om. Evam das, dhyayat, meditate. Atmanam, the self. Swasti, blessings. Va means to you. Parai, further more. Tamsaha, darkness. Parastat, beyond. When all the nerves meet like the spokes of a chariot wheel in the hub, there within the heart, he moves, becoming manifold. Meditate on that self as Om. God's speed to you, that means a very fast speed, God's speed to you in crossing to the further shores beyond darkness. So this Rishi, this Guru, is blessing that student of his. He says, if you do that way, you will be blessed by God. But first try to understand the hub, because he's mentioning hub is the point that is in contact with every point in the circumference. We are familiar with that. See, that's why this Rishi keeps on giving us these examples, so that we have a better understanding. And it is that which equates all the different tensions in the wheel, the hub. So in this mantra, he is saying, in the center of the heart is the seat of pure consciousness, which is the center of life. From the toe to the top of our hair, every part of our body is in contact with the center. Every part. How? Through the nadis. There are nerve channels, countless nerve channels. Every part of our body. It's almost like a very thick mesh of nadis in our body. And they're all come towards the center of the hub. So meditate upon the hub of life in us, the self, the Om. The Om. So this Guru is so enthusiastic, and he wants to fill his student with the enthusiasm. That's why it's almost like he's crying it out to his student that God speed to you. No Guru can bless a seeker more than by explaining the goal and the path. That's what he's telling him. Because that's where the Guru's job ends. So he's telling him, this is what you need to do. Go there with the full energy. God is with you. The pilgrimage is to be pursued by the seeker himself. Every step is to be taken by himself. Guru can only show the path. And that's what this great Guru is showing to us through these verses, bringing our attention towards this body of ours, telling us that everything, everywhere is nothing but him. Do not waste your time in idle talks. Ya sarvagyaha sarvavit yasya esha mahima bhuvi divye brahmpure hi esha vyumin atma pratishtata मनोमया प्राण शरीर नेता प्रतिष्ठता अन्य हृदय सनिधाय तत्विज्ञानेन परिपश्यन्ति धीरा आनंद रूपम अमृतम यत विभाति. Here means he who sarvagya, all wise. See, sarvagya, gya means to know, sarva means all. So all wise, sarvavit, all knowing. Yes, say to him, Esha this, Mahima, glory, Bhuvi, in the world, Divya, luminous, Brahmapure, city of Brahma. He Eshaha, indeed this, Vyoman, in the sky, Atma, soul, Pratishtata, established. Manomaya, one with mind. Pran is the life force, Sharir is the body, Netaha, guiding. Pratishtata, seated, Anne, the food, rhythm, heart, Sanidhai, clothed. Tat Vigyanen, that by perfect knowledge. Paripashyanti realizes, Dhiraha, the wise. Ananda Rupam, blissful, Amritam, immortal, Yat means which, Vibhati, manifests. He says that he is all wise, Sarvagya, he knows it all, and all knowing. And his verily is this glory. So that means this manifested world we see, it is his glory. In the sky of the heart, the luminous city of Brahma, he is established, clothed in mind and guiding life and body. With his seat in the heart, he lives in the whole body of man. In the perfect knowledge of him, the wise realize the state of blissful immortality. In this mantra, we have a clear explanation of where it can be most clearly perceived. These terms like all wise, all knowing, they have already been explained previously. Over here, he says on top of it that he is verily this glory. It is his glory, might or power, whatever we call, that is behind the every law of nature. Law of nature is this earth sustains us, nourishes us. The sun gives us the life, the energy, the light, the water, the fire, the air. That is his glory. So every law of nature, the law is, nature's law is unbreakable. So the sanction behind the law is the glory of the lawgiver. That's what basically he's telling us. And the word Brahmapure, so this term is to indicate the spot where Brahm resides. So remember, it's Brahm resides everywhere. So when he says Brahmapure, that is just a figurative explanation in terms of the finite to indicate the palace of the infinite. So this land of the self is described as luminous because consciousness is the very illuminator of all the objects and the illuminating principle in all the planes of consciousness. And it is considered to be located in the cave of the heart. Because it's there, we feel the vibrations of the intellect, the waves of the thought. We want to do little struggle to find, to locate him. So seated in the heart, he is the very substance of all the activities of the body. All our prans, the mind and the intellect. So he is far also, but he is nearer than the near. To know this is to realize the Brahman. That is the fulfillment of the supreme goal of life. So that's why he says, by realizing the self in us, we will be realizing at once the total self. If somebody says, I have realized the self in me, and I am better than everybody else, that's not a realization. Once we realize, in true sense, we see that it's everywhere, in everything. No place is without him. That is a self-realization. So that's why he used the word paripashyanti. Paripashyanti, it's almost like when a bottle is broken, the bottle space, in realizing its own nature, realizes the nature of the total space. Or if you want to take example of that balloon, we always use, pop the balloon, the same air everywhere. Inside also, outside also. This is what happened when we really realize it in the real sense. So in order to gain this self-discovery, the unavoidable quality to be developed is discriminative intellect, vivek. An intellect, when it functions through the instrument of the heart, develops in itself the divine qualities, termed as discrimination, vivek. What is temporary, what is permanent, what is true, what is false. Just like when we boil milk, what happens? When boiled milk is cooled down, there is always a cream on the top. In India, we always boiled milk. Over here also, when we make yogurt, we boil milk. Then there's a cream is on the top. A noble heart steaming over a well-lit, smokeless intellect, when it cools down, after a time of boiling, gather its own essence of cream. That essence of cream is discrimination. So sometimes this simile is used by the rishis also. Okay, that's why they say when you are meditating, there's a lot happening. You're churning. There's a churning of the nadis, the pran in the nadis, the ida and the pingala. That's what the churning of that ocean is. In our own body, we do the churning. It's almost like a boiling the milk, and then after that, there's a cream settled. So the process of bringing discrimination to the surface is the sadhana. That's why we study the scriptures. That's why we keep the association of good people, satsang. We want to make our heart contents boil up over the ignited intellect. We don't want our intellect to be tamasic. We don't want our mind and chit to be tamasic. When the contents cool down through meditation, discrimination creams up. These seekers who have gathered a wealth of discriminative intellect, they are called dhira. That is the term he's using over here, dhira. Rich in this rare wealth, they fulfill the pilgrimage and they come to enjoy the state of perfection, which is the eternal heritage. This is what he's telling us over here to do. Let's do one more verse. Vidyate hriday granti, chidyante sarv sanshaya, kshiyante cha asye karmani, tasmin drishte paravare. Vidyate, untied. Hriday Granthi, knot of the heart. Last week we talked about this knot of the heart. We got to untie that. Chidyante, solved. Sarva sanshya, all doubts. Kshiyante, consumed. Cha means and, asya, his, karmani, karmas, the actions. Tasmin, in it, drishte, when seen, paravare, the higher and the lower. That means both. When he has seen both the higher and the lower, the knot of his heart becomes untied. All doubts are resolved, and all his karmas are consumed. That infinite cannot suffer the infinite, which we call infinite, cannot suffer the finite in itself. Because from the standpoint of the infinite, the finite is not. So Atma does not suffer the pains and the pangs of the body. Infinite cannot suffer. Just like a sun knows no darkness, because light cannot suffer darkness. Just like a rope does not know the snake. The post does not have the ghost. Is not afraid of the ghost because there's no ghost. Nor can a deluded one afford to see the post so long as he is in his delusion. So from the standpoint of the true knowledge of the post, we can say that the post is the essence in both the post and the ghost. The ghost being but a trick of the mind. Actually, there's no ghost. So just like there's no snake, it's just a rope. So in the same sense, the pure consciousness is the essence behind the real and the unreal. Truth is the essence behind the true and the false. That's why he says, Tasmin drishte paravare. So the idea in our mind, according to this mantra, we got to realize him, that he is both the high and the low. He is the manifested also, the unmanifested also. He is in the akar also and the nirakar also. We cannot limit Brahma. And we shall after that be none of the experience of the ignorance we will feel. And ignorance means, that's what he's talking about, the knots of the heart. We won't feel it. We have really untied that knot. A knot of the heart is ignorance, desires, and action. Avidya, Kam, and Kara. So we have untied it. It's almost like broken. He says all doubts as to which is real and which is unreal, they have vanished. What is true, what is untrue, what is dharam, what is adharam, all such doubts get themselves solved with the experience of the reality. No doubts at all. Such a person cannot be caught within the web of the past actions and the present reactions. And that's what he meant when he says, Kshiyante cha asya karmani. He is not bound. He has really crossed the wheel of life and death. We all know that the ego alone is responsible for the egoistic actions. Naturally, it was the ego that was suffering the consequences of its actions. But when the ego gets merged with the reality, there's no actor. And so there can be no enjoyer of the reaction. A person is responsible for the actions as long as the ego is there. So that's a very powerful verse. These verses should encourage us to do our sadhana. Because we want to open up this knot of our heart. We want to remove our doubts. And we want to get rid of all the karmas. As long as the karmas are there, we are bound. And we'll keep coming back again. Those karmas will bring us into this life and death cycle. And he's showing us the way to do it. The way to do it. And next week we'll start with a beautiful verse where he talks about Hiranya me pare koshe virajam brahm nishkalam tat shubram jyoti sham jyoti tat yat atam vidavito. We'll start with that verse next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.